Nashville Arts Magazine. I'm Herb Williams. I'm a big fan of yours, by the way. I Facebook you. I just wanted to show you a day in the life of Herb. This is my studio, and here I've got, you can see, to make crayon sculptures you have to have materials, and you can see on the back wall here 50-pound cases of 3,000 of a single color of Crayolas that I get directly from Crayola, and it's fairly satisfying. Like, this is a case of orchid, and you know, that's a handful, and that'll get you just, you know, 2 or 3 inches. So it takes quite a bit to create anything worthwhile. I'll carve out, or some friends of mine, I work with several skilled artists here. We'll draw these out, carve them out with a chainsaw on blocks of wood. You can kind of see some of the larger. This is a big tuna, where this is urban sprawl, and this will hang on the wall, and you can kind of see the street outline, and these are little demarcations of houses and things, and just the idea that we're taking over. This is a really pretty. When you use the tips, it kind of changes the whole shape. This is a pike, but it's a wildfire. Ran into a lot of those. I used to work out in Northern California, and that's just, it's everywhere. But I love the idea of these fish, you know, camouflaging themselves according to whatever you have. You know, this is smog. This kind of digital LED equalizer is noise pollution. And this, you can see the little dots, almost like flowers, is light pollution, this grouper. But these kind of trophy fish that no one could ever catch because you'll never be able to see them. But I like that idea, and having kids at this museum come up with different ideas on, you know, ways they could improve the world, so that these fish, you know, can change back to something even more beautiful. It's a fun idea. Let's see. This is one of my favorite tools. It's oversized dog toenail clippers, and I use these primarily to trim the crayons down to a specific length that I'm going to be working with. In order to get anything proportionally right, you can't use the entire crayon. You have to consistently create the illusion of curves and space with these, because they're only going to do one thing. But I'll use them, and it's really nice because they've got these markings all over them. So it's really easy to be able to look at things and cut them down to just what I need them to. This is kind of an industrialized bandsaw I made, where alright, this is a box for tips, this is a box for butts, but imagine it like a magazine of ammunition, to where I can load in, this is probably 300-400 crayons that I can cut at one time, you know, a specific length, and I'm usually only using about 3/4 of an inch. But first I'll have to put a block of wood through to clean the blade, because the wax, I go through a lot of saws pretty quickly, but the wax will build up. But it's really pretty to watch these cut the crayons, and I'll show you. You can just take it and fill up, you know, you've got nice little points to work with, because when I'm bonding these to a wooden form that I've carved, I'll use industrial adhesive, and I'm bonding the paper to the form, not the wax, because the wax is a release agent. And I have to get this archival glue out of Texas, but I can put it through a hot glue gun if it's upside down, or I can just apply it directly, you know, with a spatula or different implements. the whole underneath these, you can see I've painted this one. This is all just laminated plywood, and you know, you can put it together. Sometimes I'll use birch ply, sometimes oak, but you know, I'll just glue it together, cut it out, draw it out in a shape, and then this is a smaller grinder with a chainsaw blade, and just shape it out. So the Sawzall is pretty good. So I make a lot of dust in here, but it's a very strong form. When they're really small or really large scale things like the beanstalk I did for Plunderland, I'll work with fiberglass. And if I have a lot on my plate, I'll try to bring other artists into it that are even more skilled than I am. I work with a great artist, Rick Prince, who's an amazing fabricator of materials. I've worked with Mark Hopper, who curates at the State Museum, who creates incredible forms. And I'll design something, give them a sketch so they can help me build a better substructure that I'm going to then cover, because once something is a few hundred pounds, to add a few thousand crayons to it just makes it almost impossible to maneuver by yourself. And you know, as an artist, you need to think about the end game, about moving things up several floors or across several states to different shows. Like when I first started out about 7 years ago, anybody can get online and order a case of 64 of the same color, custom, on their website. But it's expensive. It's like $9–10 a box for 64 crayons. So, but you have to start somewhere. So I did that for quite a while. Made about 12 sculptures. They were all fairly small, and had a show and spent a lot of money. And had some bigger ideas and just kept ordering more crayons until finally I got a hold of somebody at Crayola, and they were, you know, just like, what are you doing? And hooked me up with the larger cases and showed me how, you know, how many more crayons I could get in different colors. And so, you know, it really opened a few doors for me. The way I normally have to piece these together will be to physically lay things down. I'll try to map it out and know about how many crayons I'm going to use, but laying them down and gluing them by hand, but following kind of a formula line, and sometimes changing them around, but actually scoring them individually. And man, I mean, it's a lot of work just by hand that I'll do to match everything in and create these works. But it's a lot of fun. And then, yeah, these are all different sketches. Some of them I've done, some of them I've you know, just dreamed about doing. But that's where it's exciting to me. Once it's that large a work that you can walk into, you don't immediately recognize that it's crayons, and it has a larger meaning. To me, it becomes something you don't immediately recognize, that can be powerful, and people can interpret it in a different way. And once you do realize it's crayons, it's nice. But I love the way that it can change and fool the eye. And these larger installation type works are kind of where it's going, where it's headed, because they're just so dramatic and have real power.